Well, after Friday's death of Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, the scenes of jubilation are continuing in that country. The transitional government has officially declared national liberation, and now the hard work of rebuilding the country into a stable democracy begins. ABC correspondent Michael Vincent is in Tripoli, and he joined me a short time ago. Michael Vincent, what are the immediate challenges for the transitional government?
They have to get the oil flowing. They've got to get a big bucket of petrodollars that they can ease the tensions with throughout the community, the various feuds between cities, regions and tribes, and make sure that the people who have suffered over the last 8 months, that they can repair their communities and get people back into jobs, not the least of which those young men who've been fighting for the past 8 months. They have to get them back to work and give them a reason apart from carrying a gun.
There are obviously a lot of guns and loose weapons in the community that have been used as part of the opposition to Gaddafi. What's happening with all of that?
Well, here in Tripoli last night at Martyrs Square, there were many young men walking around in their uniforms with their AK-47s. They're still driving around in their technicals with their anti-aircraft guns, letting them off into the night sky for fun. These are the men that will now have to be demobilised. They'll have to have the weapons taken off them. They will have to form part of the new army, or the government says they will have to hand their weapons back in with a threat. Either they're going to buy them off them or with a threat of jail. This is not Iraq, people tell me. People do not normally have an AK-47 behind the front door for security, but there are many of these young men I've spoken to who are quite happy to souvenir these weapons, pistols, AK-47s, even RPGs, rocket-propelled grenades, and keep them as souvenirs. In the new Libya, they will have to return those to create a semblance of stability and to ensure that retributions are not carried out.
Well, how stable are things there right now? You know, you've just been discussing the weapons, and you mentioned earlier the various factions and different tribal groups that are around. I know you've been saying a lot of jubilation, but is it stable over the short to medium term?
For the moment, the transitional government and their military arm have managed to create a secure environment. The traffic is flowing down in the streets of Tripoli. People are going about their daily lives as best they can. But the rubble from the bombing of NATO is here. The destruction of the buildings from the fighting is very clear anywhere you go in Libya. Many thousands of people lost their lives here, and getting a sense of stability after the happiness goes will be crucial in terms of getting people into jobs, in terms of getting the foreign workers they rely on back into this country, to ensure that the various institutions, even just getting the garbage picked up off the street, that is done, and soon.
In some remarks over the weekend, the head of the Transitional Council seemed to indicate that the country's future government would be Islamic in nature, not secular. What are the implications of that?
Libya is a Muslim country. Libya is a conservative Muslim country. That does not mean that they want an Islamic state like Iran, but they are very observant people. I've been in Benghazi, I've been here in Tripoli. Tripoli is considered more liberal than Benghazi, but still, the Muslim prayer, the prayers throughout the day are observed. If you go to restaurants, some restaurants have men's sections and women's sections. The community here follows the practices of Islamic culture. That does not mean that they will become an Islamic state. The fact that the head of the National Transitional Council said Sharia law would be the law on which all laws would be based here is something he said earlier when the Tripoli was captured. And the West sort of raised an eyebrow, but then in subsequent discussions we're told, this is who we are not going to become fanatical, we are not going to become a problem for the West. Don't worry, this is who we are, this is how we deal with things.
Michael Vincent in Libya. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Lee.